On our last presentation for this evening, Matt, aging advances.
Aging advances.
Yes.
Start my timer.
Yes.
Take a look at this census chart. You'll see the image on the right is more of a rectangle. I'll get into that as I talk us through this. Now, when I say you are the sci-fi author, and I'm taking you on a tour of my library. So, hello. First off, I'd like to welcome you to Libby Mill Public Library, and also thank you for taking the time from your book tours to take a library tour with us. This tour will be a speculative brainstorming, a look 50 years into the future. As adult services librarian here at the library, I'd like to lay out a likely scenario for a public library in the future. This is going to require some context, so bear with me for a minute while I give you the why before I give you the what. As you might have seen in the news, Americans are getting older as a population. This is actually a projection of the US Census that by 2034, just 12 short years from now, older adults will outnumber children for the first time in American history. What we're looking at here in the next few decades is a population explosion demographically of senior citizens living in a time where age expectancy in the US is projected to be potentially 88 years old by 2050. The UN says that every country on our planet is experiencing growth in the number and proportion of older persons in their populations, and says population aging will become one of the most significant social transformations of our century, with implications for nearly all sectors of society, including labor markets, as well as intergenerational ties. We agree, and we also believe that seniors, with their wealth of life and work experience, are an incredibly deep and as yet untapped resource of people who are both able and willing to work and actively contribute to their communities. So this population boom in older Americans is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. Now take a look at what we have going on here. I brought you upstairs here to the third floor of our library to paint you a picture of the future, to show you a scenario, to deliver you a presentation and a demonstration of what could be and how we're already planning for it here. I'd like to welcome you to the Libby Mill Library Adult Resource Center, or what we plan to be the LMLARC. Yes, this is a holograph, what you're looking at, projected against a series of green screens we've set up around the place. Looks pretty great, doesn't it? This all exists thanks to help from students from the VCU Brand Center. Downtown, they helped us envision this layout as a presentation tool when we pitched for grants and county commissioner approval for bond referendums. As I said, this is all happening faster than we think it's going to, so the time to plan for it is now. You'll see that our staff here is a bit more on the mature side. By our counting, the average age of the staff librarians is around 65. They're retired educators, therapists, and others from varied career paths who have rejoined our ranks in exchange for their services. They're paid, and the costs of their medical care are offset by the Medicare Expansion Act of 2032, which contributes to health expenses for Americans over the age of 65 who work actively in the public sector. Over here, you'll see our dedicated sound booth. It's for podcasters of senior issues and for recording oral histories from community members with a focus on unheard voices, such as Black perspectives on living in Jim Crow Richmond. These stories from another, less documented time are still crucial perspectives on our history. In this section over here, we see a senior debate team practicing for an upcoming debate in Spanish with the North Chesterfield Library debate team across the river. As the Brooklyn Public Library does, they've been hosting a senior debate team since last year. We also agree that lively debate keeps minds limber. It helps keep our senior community intellectually stimulated and socially engaged. Over here is our senior outreach dispatch desk. This is where we collect requests for bookmobile visits and home and book and DVD deliveries to homes, as well as coordinate with the help of virtual reality deliveries via drone. Here is a senior staff librarian / drone pilot wearing VR goggles to check in with residents of a senior center after dropping off a bifocal kit. It's a virtual social call for isolated seniors. Over in this corner, isolated behind virtual glass doors, is a dedicated call center. Based on an existing program in Canada that's been operating for a few years called TelAid, it's in Montreal. Interested senior volunteers have signed up to be trained to listen to callers on 10-minute calls. And these callers are people who call in when they're experiencing overwhelming emotions. It's not a suicide line, it's more like a helpline or a crisis line. And these seniors who are on the calls are not therapists. They're just there to listen. Over here is our program hall. Lifelong learning happens here. Every one of these courses is offered virtually over WebEx and Zoom. Right now, a retired master gardener is sharing best practices for planting this coming spring. Finally, over here, we see a meeting of Henrico County Public Library's Adult Advisory Group. All of what you see here is the result of active participation from area senior volunteers. With their help, we determine that these are services that our community wants and needs. They've been there from the start, and much of this wouldn't have been possible without their buy-in and their way in. Now, you're a sci-fi author and you know books. There's a textbook by the Rubens. They're a father and daughter writing team, and they've written a standard manual that we use for all things library, from the past to the future. The Rubens envision a future where there will be a clear need for librarians to increasingly adapt to the role of educator, and we agree. And we see older citizens joining in here as fully integrated members of our team to play an active role in the library of the future, from working here to tutoring here to sharing their life experiences. All of this raises a question. How will public libraries evolve to accommodate the sea change of change? Fortunately, change is what we do at public libraries. It's a top priority of ours to ensure that we're serving the needs of our community as best we can. We're already popular with seniors. 10 years ago, the Institute of Museum and Library Services shared that nearly 90% of polled older adults use their public library either between every day and several times a month. So as this population grows, so must our services and offerings. We anticipate that public libraries will have a central role in outreach for seniors more than ever before. In short, book clubs for seniors and analog lifelong learning classes, while great, are not enough. Our visions for a future where seniors aren't just recipients of programming. They lean in at the library, and they're more active participants in our operations. I have another paragraph, but that's 7 minutes.
That was really well done. All right, opening up for questions.
Sure, I'll start again. I'm having fun with it. How do you how do you see these aging advances changing the layouts of the library in general, or if they even are going to change the layout of the library at all?
Well, physically, they might need to accommodate, make additional accommodations, additional elevators. I think also in the course of my readings, a lot more like streaming will become more popular. If a senior or anyone for that matter can't make it physically to the library, a lot of programming, like the library system in my county does a lot of programming, but right now, proportionally very little of it is streaming.
Mhm.
There are a few that do it over WebEx, but like Money No Object, there's a way that anybody can tap into the programming at their local library at any time, or tap into a recorded version of it.
You did mention a couple of the programming services before. I was surprised about that. I was actually going to ask if you had any other additional ideas for programming to support these aging advances in the future.
I wrote down some other things. Let me see if I can remember them. I mean, I just went down this rabbit hole of all these things, and the whole money is no object thing. I was kind of drooling over it, for sure. But I think any place that you can keep older folks intellectually stimulated. A lot of folks, like, they're getting older. They have plenty of time to be productive and volunteer their time. I just think that there's all kinds of places and ways that this can go. And older folks are not just patrons and users of the library, they're also voters. So like, I think as this population grows, if it's put in front of them that this is an opportunity to expand the services at their library, you're going to see it in the polling places.
So I have a few questions. How do you think aging populations can be encouraged to play an active role? Because I know you said that they're usually patrons, but how do you encourage them to become a part of the library?
That's the thing. All right, you have to get people to want to do it, and not everybody does want to be an active participant. I'm not sure. I talked with I did talk with the, my interview with my librarian was the outreach librarian for the county. I would guess maybe that you in your travels in the county in this future state, like when you have one-to-one relationships that you develop with the seniors that you're helping and serving, you might keep an eye and an ear out to see how engaged the seniors might be willing to get to be, and maybe they can be brought into the fold that way. I think it's probably just a one-on-one thing, and you can't just. It might be difficult to send out like a blanket, statement and invitation. That's one thing you could do, but I think maybe a one-on-one approach might be more effective here.
Mm-hmm. And then, what are some ways you think libraries can be adapted to better suit the needs of the older population?
Streaming, outreach. I know that in my county, there's a very active bookmobile, and my librarian said that they only, in the course of a month, they only can get to 25 senior centers right now. He said there's about 100 in the county. He feels that they need to expand. It's just a question of time, money, the truck, 2 trucks. He definitely wants to expand it. He said they've just hired over the summer like a youth services outreach librarian. Well, what about a senior services outreach librarian? Maybe there are some of those types of positions. I've not come across any, but I could definitely see that in the future. Somebody who's just completely focused on that, on senior services.
I have a few questions. It kind of builds off the last set of questions, but when it comes to the programs that you do have to offer and the services that are available, what kind of like advertising, marketing do you think that you could do? Because it could be potential people moving into the area that may not have a lot of information about it. Like, what are ways that you think could possibly reach out to that population so that they do know what's available?
Right. Yeah. I mean, older citizens may have varying levels of social media involvement, engagement, and right. So I think that Facebook is increasingly popular with older folks. I would definitely look there. I'd look to try and engage my local TV stations for sure, like the noontime programs, the morning programs, like the after news programs in the mornings, and maybe like live shots from libraries at like 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. local TV. That could be a prime audience for getting your message out. Getting the bookmobile, it's for Henrico County. It's big, it's green, it's got white letters that are all over the side of the van. Going out to events like that to help spread the word is another idea. Yeah.
Okay. And then when it comes to the library participating in like events or things that are going on in the community. So I know that on the trends page, it mentioned about programs that, might need a little bit more involvement, such as like Meals on Wheels. Do you see that the public library could be a helpful aspect into those programs for the advanced aging or the aging advanced?
Absolutely. If not Meals on Wheels and delivering other services, I don't know. As the more I get into like library outreach, the more I feel social. I feel very socialist, and that for me is a good thing. I don't know if it's like for like senior population so much, but I could totally see like the bookmobile or an outreach services going to help people. Not to provide materials and paperwork so that they could register to vote if they haven't already done so, but only to provide the paperwork so that they can register to vote and not do it in any way that's partisan other than that. That might be one thing that the libraries could do as far as outreach. Yeah.